city. Yeah. It's puppy love, baby. It's puppy love, yeah. It's puppy love, baby. It's puppy love, yeah. You know the vibes. You know what time it is. You know the vibes. You know what time it is. It's puppy love, baby. It's puppy love, yeah. It's puppy love, baby. It's puppy love, yeah. You know the vibes. You know what time it is. You know the vibes. You know what time it is. It's after hours, she fresh out the shower. We just got hours, then I Jack Bauer. I see her 24 years. She 24 years poppin' and got her.
How are you doing, Puppy Love listeners? This is your boy, aka Tay, also known as Trigger Fingers, and Puppy Love is back. And today we have a guest that I have been for a very long time trying to get in contact with, trying to get on the show. And it has finally happened. I'm going to allow her to introduce herself, but I need to boast for a second. So, 2019 fall, when I was in West Virginia at Marshall University, I was walking home from class and I was listening to one of her episodes, and I was telling myself, I really want to start a podcast, but I don't know how to start. And I don't have any equipment. I don't know what we would talk about. So I contacted Driz, the co-host, and I asked him, I was like, what do you think about starting a podcast? Me and him went back and forth for months, actually. We probably had the conversation in October, and we actually did not start the show until last July. So a very long time before we actually pulled the trigger and actually started the podcast, but here we are, one of the inspirations behind Puppy Love the show, Miss Tennesha Wood.
Hello, and congratulations on finally starting your podcast. I love that you did it. I think the hardest part of really any journey is the beginning and starting it. So congratulations on taking the hardest step, and I'm glad I could be somewhat of an inspiration to you doing that.
Thank you. So Tennesha is owner, creator, CEO of the Broom List, and today that's kind of what we are going to talk about, is her journey with how she got started and all of that. So we're going to get into the whole process, but I want to allow Tennesha to plug in the Broom List and what it's about and all of that.
Hi everyone, and again, thank you for having me. So I am the founder of the Broom List, and the Broom List is a matchmaking company for Black professionals. For me, it's all about Black love and really bringing two people together that are doing amazing things so that they can create a legacy for not only their families, but for Black people as a whole. So everybody that I work with is at least 28, has at least a bachelor's degree, earns at least $75K annually, and the most important part of that is that they are ready for a long-term relationship or commitment. And how we come to understand that readiness is through a pretty intensive vetting process. So for those of you that are familiar with matchmaking, you might know that the vetting process is not always rigorous. So I say to myself, with each and every person that I talk to via the Broom List, that if I wouldn't date this person, or if my friends wouldn't date this person, then they might not be a person that, we should work with. So we really do seek people that are ready and are committed to doing the work that it takes to create a successful relationship. So during our vetting process, there's a video call with me that's about 2 hours where we talk about everything from therapy to communication to sex to how you handle finances to your relationship background and your family background, all to understand who people are and then who to best match them with. And also I do a home tour, so y'all remember MTV Cribs. So I see people's houses and how they live and what's important to them. And then I also do a reference check. So I talk to a friend or family member to get an understanding of, how the people closest to you see you and what they admire about you. And after all that is when I put those two people together and the magic happens.
That is quite the process. I'm not sure how matchmaking works prior to learning about you and your brand, but I don't know if everyone's going as in depth or that deep into someone's life and how they live and what they do for work. I think most people are like, this is what I like. They have a list. I want this, this, and this. 6 foot, 100K, and then they just kind of plug people together that match up with that. So it sounds like your process is a very in depth and thorough process.
Absolutely, because I mean, those things are nice, and they're definitely important that, you know, people's values are aligned in terms of their goals and ambitions and things like that. But I would argue that it's even more important to understand, you know, who people are in their heart and in their core, and what they're seeking, and not just like from a professional standpoint, but like what brings them joy, like what are they looking to feel when they wake up next to their partner in the morning? Like, you know, I could tell you during COVID, where there's been a lot of divorces and a lot of separations, that's because people for the first time are really getting to know their partners. And some of them are clearly not liking what they see. And so that's why I say, like, seek to understand how that person makes you feel when you're around them. You know, seek to understand who they really are, like the good, the bad, the ugly, because no one's perfect. You're never going to find anybody perfect. Let's get that out there right away. But like, understand enough of who people are and what they're working on, and know if you can work within those things.
Great. So I have a few questions for you.
Absolutely.
To kind of just get a better understanding of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
How would you describe the current atmosphere of dating and relationships today?
I would say that COVID has put a really it's put a serious face on things. So I think that people have become a lot more intentional about who they want to date and why they want to date that person. And after a year of sitting in the house, a lot of people have come out on the other side, understanding themselves a lot better and highlighting for them, you know, here are the qualities I actually need. Maybe the 6 foot, 6-pack, 6-figure isn't everything because I want a person that like truly cares about me. I want a person that I know if I'm sick, they're going to take care of me. I want a person that like is my best friend that I can spend 24/7 with if need be. Now, hopefully that's not natural. We all don't need to hopefully we don't need to go through another pandemic. But I think people's value systems and what they deem to be important in their relationships have changed, and they've become a lot more serious and intentional about finding those things.
Now, do you think, and this is just kind of branching off of that question, do you think social media and dating apps have kind of affected that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, first of all, during the pandemic, dating apps have seen such a crazy amount of growth and increase in the number of people that are using them and engaging. And again, because we're all in the house. But what I've seen in terms of like how people are using those things differently is they're being a lot more direct, and they're also being a lot more discerning. So a lot of people look on dating apps, they look at the photo, and then they decide, do I like this person, do I not, based on the photo. Sometimes without even reading what's written or their bio or anything like that. And I've seen just a lot more intentionality around it, where it's, I don't just want to go out on a date with you to, have a good time and possibly sleep with you. It's like, I really actually do want to see, is this a person that I could be compatible with? Is this a person that, shares sort of my vision for the future? So I've seen people adding a lot more in their bios about what they're looking for, So yes, I'm looking for a serious relationship. Yes, I'm looking for a commitment versus just sort of letting the universe decide what they get.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, y'all still watching that? Hey, before we get back to the show, what I want y'all to do is I want y'all to go ahead and take a look at this for me.
It doesn't snow in Florida, can't even touch the border. I'll be damned if I drown inside of this hot water. Check every bruise and feeling, I'm touching every ceiling. Make major moves and killing, invest in bold predictions. I see the hate and tension, yet I rebuke the masses. Uplift the poor, the bastards, widows and hungry classes. Paint through my tinted glasses, you hear the lightning clashing. Now it is time for action, now it is time for action.
Now if you like what you saw, We have a link in our description down below. There's a promotional section there. Just go ahead and click on that link. Tap in with those creators. Let them know that you appreciate their work and you're willing to ride with them through their journey. All right? Show them some love. Let them know that Puppy Love the Show sent you. Now, with that being said, let's get back to the show. I gotta eat this orange, all right?
I want to get into another question. What would be your recommendations for someone? Okay, I want to find love. I'm ready for a relationship. What do I need to do beforehand, before reaching out to you, like with my life?
Yeah. Step one is really getting right with yourself, you know? So if there are things that you're not happy with in your life, understand that those things aren't going to be filled by having a partner. Those things aren't going to be made better by having a partner. Those things are going to be made better by you. So if there are things that you're not happy with whether that be in your life or just within yourself, internal things, I would say seek the help that you need in order to adjust those so that you don't feel like you need something to fill that void. So a lot of my clients, actually, I talk to very few people who haven't been to therapy, and that makes me really happy. So most of my clients and the people that I match them with have been to therapy and have done a lot of that work. Specifically, again, during COVID, a lot of them sought therapy that maybe hadn't before that. But I think it's so important to get right with you, you know, and then once you feel good about you, the next step then is really evaluating, okay, what do I need out of a partner? You know, and that looks different for everybody. You know, the 2.5 kids married with a white picket fence and a dog, that's not for everybody. And that's okay, but don't try to fit yourself into some sort of box that's not for you. So really take the time to understand who you are and therefore what you need out of a partnership. And then once you go seeking that, make sure that, you know, you're being authentic to you and you're sort of not changing for each person that may or may not come along. Like, stay true to who you are. Don't send a representative. If you show up and somebody doesn't like you for you, that's fine. That is okay. That's just not your person. And the sooner you know that, the better, and the less time you're wasting of your own or somebody else's. So always, 100% of the time, show up as 100% of you. And don't waste time, you know? So if you are the type of person that is seeking a serious relationship and a committed partnership, don't entertain situations that aren't heading in that direction. So discern and understand early if that's what that situation is or can be. If not, move on. Don't waste time, because that's just gonna like frustrate you in the end.
Yes, it does. So you brought out something that leads into my next question. Figuring out what it is that you want, and I guess in a sense asking, like almost like making a list of things. So what do you find that is most common on the women that you work with on their list?
Mm-hmm. I would say for them it's like partnership is a huge one, where the things that we are doing it to work towards the same goals. So, you know, I'm not in this alone, right? Because really that's being single. It's sort of like you're thinking for yourself. You're doing everything for you, and there's nobody else to be concerned with. And a lot of my clients they're seeking partnership. They're seeking somebody to build a future with. So that's a big one. Another one that, in terms of I'll tell you this. For my female clients, it's somewhat different than my male clients. So with both, I would say a lot of them are seeking partnership. The thing that I hear that I think is less common, we hear it less often than it's actually than it's more relevant than we think. I'll say that. For men, I hear kindness a lot. So when they talk about qualities that they want in a woman, kindness is generally at the top of that list. So somebody that just thinks of other people, somebody that is generous, both like with their time and just, you know, how they contribute to the world. That's a huge one for men. One that I hear from women a lot that I don't think is valued enough is a sense of humor, you know, just being able to laugh. Like, life happens, things aren't always going to go our way, but just the ability to like laugh at oneself is something that I hear a lot. So I guess how I would say that should translate if you're looking for a partner is to be those things, and don't act outside of yourself. If you're not a person that's like, standing on stage telling jokes, you don't have to change to be that, but it means like finding humor in life, and however you choose to express that is fine, but like don't take things so seriously all the time. Like take a moment, and this isn't for a partner, this is just for you. Like do this for you. Like take time out of every day to just like sit back and like have a laugh. And if that means watching a movie or talking to a friend that you find funny, whatever it is, like find the joy and the humor in life. Like it makes you a lighter person, meaning just like you don't feel so bogged down by everything that's happening in life. And people are attracted to that. Like people are attracted to people that are just able to take life as it comes and like not be so serious and feel so bogged down. Like have that type of energy, and it's going to attract that type of energy, and then it'll just keep producing more of that. So that's one of the things I hear. Kindness, what does that mean? It means just thinking of other people. Like if you see somebody, like smile, say hi. Like again, it's just having a general optimistic demeanor and seeing the glass as half full in life, right? So I think those are qualities that we really want in ourselves, and so we seek those in other people.
Yes. So on the flip side, and you kind of touched on a few of them, but what do you see most common on the list for the men that you work with?
Yeah, like I said, kindness is a big one. I would say that also men tend to be more visual than women. So I do hear from men quite frequently, this is the ideal look that I like. Like this is the type of look, that I'm really attracted to. Whereas I see women focusing on that less. I'm not saying it's never on the list, and certainly attraction is important to almost everybody. But I think for women that falls further down on the list than it tends to for men. And again, not saying guys aren't focused on other qualities too, but I do hear physical attraction as something that men seek more often than maybe women do.
So I'm kind of transitioning into the next question.
Mm-hmm.
To get better results from their dating, relationships, and love life, what do you recommend for both parties to kind of improve their dating life? Let's say, Tennehsa, I would love to work with you, but I'm not 28 and I don't make the money that you require. What can I do outside of hiring a dating coach to work on my dating, relationship, and love life?
Yeah. So be clear, right? Be clear about who you are and what you're seeking in a partner. And the first step to getting anything you want out of life, whether that be love, career, anything else, you have to be clear about what it is that you're seeking. Mm-hmm. So if you're, using apps, say that in your profile. Say, I want a serious relationship. Say, I am just looking to meet people and date. Whatever it is that you're seeking, be absolutely clear about that so that people know your intentions. The other thing is to use your resources. A matchmaker isn't the only way to find love. So I always think about it in the same way that I do if you were looking for a new job or if you were trying to switch careers. There's a couple things that you would do. Step one, you'd probably reach out to your network, right? You'd probably say to your friends, hey, you work in X industry and I'm trying to get a job in that industry. Do you know anybody? Do you have any pointers and tips that I could do to be in touch with those people? Use your resources in the same way. So if I'm single, my friends should all know that I'm single and that I'm looking for something and what I'm looking for. And therefore, my friends are now resources for me. Therefore, when they go out, if they're in a relationship, and they are talking to people and they hear about somebody that's single, they'll think of Tennehsa. They're like, oh, okay, maybe Tennehsa might like him. Let me, because that's how I got my start in matchmaking, is just sort of casually connecting people. And so use all your available resources. And the other thing too is like, when you do meet somebody, like, be vulnerable. I think rejection is hard for everybody, right? But be vulnerable enough to say to that person, hey, I really like you. Here's what I like about you. Here's where I would like to see this go. And I'm hoping you're on the same page. Like, have conversations about it, but don't make assumptions about what people are thinking or feeling. And yeah, sometimes vulnerability comes with rejection, but ultimately it comes with clarity, because at least you know then where that person stands. And if you're on the same page, amazing. Now, like, you're both so clear on what it is and what you want, and you can take that next step together.
Yes, I like how you said that, because there's been times in my life in the past where I'm dating someone and I'm thinking I'm opening up, but from their perspective, they don't feel as if I'm opening up. So two different people can have two different perspectives on the relationship, and like what I may deem as like, this is amazing and things are going great, the other person can be like, this isn't it. So how do I guess the answer would be communication, but how would the two people know that this is compatible and that it's working?
Yeah. Always ask, right? So just, if you're unsure about something, always ask. So if you are wanting to do something nice, right? Let's say that you're like, hey, I really like this woman. I want to like take her out on a nice date. Ask her what that means for her. Like, what makes you feel special? Like, what makes you feel loved? Like, what makes you, like, be filled with joy? So just ask. I think that's the biggest thing, is we often make these assumptions. If somebody does something that you don't like, say, hey, I know you probably didn't mean anything by that, or I know you didn't mean it to come off this way, but here's how that action made me feel. Like, here's how I interpreted it. Is that how you meant it? Let's talk about it. Let's clear it up. But I think what happens too often is we either ignore or we make assumptions. So if somebody does something we don't like, and we'll say, like, whatever. It's whatever, right? And after so many whatevers, it piles up, and you start to have a reaction even when you think you don't. You start to catch a little bit of an attitude even when you think like, oh, I'm not bothered by it. And so that's why it's important just to say, hey, what was that? What did you mean by that? Like, get clarity on it. It could be nothing. And a lot of the times, the way that people act and react, it's because of things they have going on within themselves. If I have a bad day at work and I come home and I'm short with you, that probably has nothing to do with you. You're just the person that I happen to be around right now, so you might be getting the brunt of my emotions, even though that's not what I mean to happen. And then you take it personally. You're like, oh, did she just have a problem with the thing I just said or did? Okay, because she's reacting to me in that way. So it's like both people are having separate conversations within themselves, never exchanging with each other and making assumptions and coming to conclusions, and then interpreting where the relationship is or can go based on the assumptions and the conclusions that they've just come to without having any conversation in between there. So that's why it's so important just to ask the question. Like, don't make assumptions like, hey, like, I noticed you seem a little off today. Like, is everything okay? Is there anything I can do? Is it me? Just ask. And that's the biggest roadblock for people, is just asking the question.
So asking the question and being able to open up and allow yourself to accept what you want and know what you want.
Right.
Go ahead. What are you going to say?
No, I was going to say, and like, be willing to take responsibility in discussions. So if it is you, if you do say, hey, I noticed you're acting a little funny, what's wrong? Is it me? Like, be ready to like receive that and hear it without being defensive or without creating more assumptions, So like, if it's one thing to get feedback, right? Like, feedback is good, but it's another thing to actually take it in, digest it, and process it before reacting. Like, I think sometimes our natural sort of instinct when somebody says, you've done something wrong, or you've done something I don't like, our initial reaction a lot of times is to say, well, I didn't mean it like that, or like, oh, I think you're taking it wrong, or versus just like, stop, process it. And sometimes that processing is, yeah, I could see how that could come off, but that's not how I meant it. Or sometimes the process is just like, yeah, I was wrong for the way I came off.
That's taking accountability.
Yeah.
Accountability, and most people don't want to do that. So.
Right, and it's so much easier when you do that on the front end. When on the front end you just say like, okay, here's how that made me feel. It could just be squashed, but when we let things build and build and build, and then there's layers and assumptions and conclusions and all that, it becomes so much harder to fix it because people then wait until it's almost too late.
Yes, absolutely. There was a lot of great information in all of what you just said, and I'm going to have to go back and write some of this down for sure. And I encourage the listeners to do that as well. Next, what I want to get into is something we do here on Puppy Love the Show is our guests give a sex tip of the week. Mm-hmm. Now, in the case with you, since you are the love guru, is what I have deemed you. How would you say that the listeners could prioritize making time for intimacy?
Right. So we're busy. We are all very busy, and anything that you give attention to is what you prioritize and what actually happens. When you don't make things a priority, they naturally will just fall by the wayside. So if I say I'm going to get up today and I'm going to the gym, I'm getting there at 7 a.m., like I'm going to do it. If I just say, I'll get there when I get there, I'm not going to the gym.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. And I think it's the same thing with creating quality time with your partner. So if that takes you literally scheduling it and saying, today at 5 p.m. for an hour, we are going to spend time together, undistracted and uninterrupted without our phones. Like, put it on the calendar if that's what you need. But quality time in a partnership is necessary. And so whether that be you're just doing an activity together and spending time, whether that be you're having sex, whatever it may be, however you want to spend your time together, dedicate the time. Because it's so easy to say, I'm so busy at work, I'm so stressed, I'm so busy with my family, we're all busy. And so like that relationship can easily start to crumble if you don't actually dedicate quality time to it. And people do it without realizing it. And next thing you know, you're like, yo, I haven't actually spent, like, we live in a house together, but like, I haven't actually spent any time with my boyfriend. I haven't actually like sat and talked to my husband in a couple days. Like, just because you are sharing a space, it doesn't mean you're sharing the space. Like, share this space, not just the space. And so take quality time together. Like, make it a priority and schedule it if you literally have to. Yes,
that's a great tip. In conjunction with that, I have a question. So let's say someone and their partner have two opposite schedules. Mm-hmm. One works in the evening, one works maybe the third shift, graveyard shift. Mm-hmm. How would they schedule their time with each other? Because obviously they're both busy and they're just missing each other.
Right. And that's a tough one. And sometimes that can't necessarily come from like direct physical time, but maybe that's like, hey, if it's your lunch break and I'm up, like, let's FaceTime for 5 minutes and like, just tell me something sweet, or like, tell me about how your day is going. Like, let's dedicate this time to each other. And, you know, obviously you want that to be time where you're physically in the same space, but there are ways to let people know that you're thinking about them throughout their day. And so whether that be, look, you're off to work, I'm just getting home, I left a sweet little note in your lunch, or like, you know, I stuck something in your bag to let you know that I'm thinking about you. But even still, even in those situations, you might not be able to spend an hour together a day. But like, how often can you spend together? When can you make that quality time to be together? Is that once a week? Is that twice a month? Whatever it is, like, commit to that and then actually do it and make that time special. So it's not necessarily about the amount of time that's being spent together, but it is about the quality of that time. So I can spend all day with you, but I could be sitting on my phone, I could be distracted, I could be working, all sorts of things could be happening. And so that time doesn't really matter. But I could spend 10 minutes with you and be completely devoted to you in that 10 minutes, and you have my full attention, and I am listening to you, and we are sharing in this moment together. Like, that counts. Like, that's impactful. So it's not about the amount of time, but just focus on the quality of that time.
Great. Well, I want to first and foremost, and I'm probably going to do this 100 times again, but I want to first and foremost thank you so much. Before I let you get on with the rest of your day, where can listeners find you? How can they reach out to you? Where can they sign up for the Broom List?
Yes. Yeah, so I am everywhere at Tennesha Wood. So that's TENNESHAWOOD. Most of the time on Instagram, though barely nowadays. And my website is TenneshaWood.com, and you can apply for the Broom List there. And things have been really busy, but I do try to speak with everybody that I can, because it's really important for me to have a personal connection with everybody that is on the Broom List.
Yes, and you also have a podcast. Where can they find that and listen to the podcast as well?
Yeah, so my podcast is called Dating, Relationships, and Love, or DRL. You can also find the information with that on TenneshaWood.com or at Tennesha Wood on social media. On there, you know, we run the full gamut of relationships. So this could be people that are single and trying to date, people that are divorced, people that are in, you know, poly or open type relationships. Like, you know, I'm the type of person that is just very curious about how people come to love and how they come to companionship, and I'm very aware that it looks different for everybody, and I think that is the beauty of it. Like, that is the thing to be explored. You know, at the end of the day, I always say we all want love, we all need love, and companionship, and I think it's really beautiful, the different roads and paths that people take to get there.
Yes, once again, I'm not saying that puppy love never would have became what it has become, but you were definitely an inspiration behind getting it started. So
I'm really happy to hear that.
This has just been an honor having this opportunity to interview with you and having this opportunity to learn more about things that maybe I need to consider for my own self. And I'm sure a lot of the listeners can benefit from this episode. So
Absolutely.
I want to thank you very much. And I hope that you have an amazing rest of your day and continued success with the Broom List and dating, relationships, and love. Everything that you've done, you've been an inspiration not only to myself, but I'm sure to thousands of other people. So
Thank you so much, and I am looking forward to seeing Puppy Love grow and flourish, and if I can help in any way, please let me know.
Most definitely. Well, with that, listeners, we're going to wrap this episode up. You know, as times are starting to open back up, things are starting to get back to a little bit more normal. Please continue to be safe out there. Please continue to wash your hands and socially distance when you can. And just know that Puppy Love the family. We always love the listeners. Don't forget to tell your friends, to tell their friends, to tell all of their friends. And we hope that you have a great rest of your day. And Driz will be back next episode. I'm sure some of you miss him, but he will be back next episode. So with that, Peace.